things are going to happen, right, in your practice. But if your patients trust you and they respect you, they're going to always come back. That's why it's so important to build that connection piece and have that rapport with them.
This is the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.
All right. Hey, everybody. It's Bref, and we are back with another episode of the Aesthetics Growth Podcast. And today I'm super excited to be joined by Olivia Kirkpatrick. Olivia is a board-certified nurse practitioner and educator at the Confidence Bar in Chicago. She's also a key opinion leader for Alliston Skincare. With over a decade, over 11 years of experience, Olivia is really passionate about bridging that gap and helping both patients and providers and really people remove that hesitation to communicate authentically and confidently. And I'm excited to unpack more on the show today. Olivia, welcome to the Aesthetics Growth Podcast. Super excited to have you here.
Thanks, Brett, for having me. I'm super excited to be here. It's an honor.
Nice. Well, hey, we had a quick powwow a few weeks ago now, and I would love, Olivia, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and just letting our audience know a little bit more about you. Who are you? How did you get started? And how did you end up in this wild world of aesthetics?
Yeah. So I initially started in the ICU about 13 years ago now, I think. So I was ICU nurse critical care for the first 5 years of my career. And the first 3 or 4 years of that, I got to the top, which just means I was code nurse and charge nurse. And once you get to that level, there's really nowhere else to go in ICU besides either management or leadership, stuff like that. And I was like, I can't do ICU for the rest of my life because it's so sad and it rips your heart out of your chest. And I'm very empathetic. So I would take it home with me. And it makes you a good nurse when you're empathetic, but it's also, you carry it with you, right? So I was like, I can't do this forever. What's my next move? And a lot of nurses do CRNA, so they do nurse anesthetist after ICU. So that was the route I was potentially going to take. So I was gearing up to take my GRE to potentially apply to CRNA school. And I just happened to stumble upon one of my colleagues who had gotten Botox from a nurse at the hospital I worked at Northwestern. So she had taken a break and just jumped out of the ICU to go get her Botox really quick and then came back to work. And I was like, wait, a nurse just did your Botox? And this was before it was booming, right? So now everybody wants to be an aesthetic practitioner, right? Every single medical professional is trying to get into this field. But 9 years ago now, this was 10 years ago, I think. It wasn't popular. So I had no idea nurses could do it. So when she came in and told me that a nurse had done it, I'm like, wait a second. That's so awesome. I want to shadow that nurse or figure out if I can kind of see if it's something I want to do. So I reached out to the clinic throughout my hospital and was like, hi, I work in the ICU here. Would you mind if I shadowed, one of your nurse injectors for a day and just to see if I like it? And so that's essentially how my journey started. I followed and shadowed a nurse injector and I loved it. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to get into this field in the interim before I take the plunge into CRNA. Because I just was like, CRNA is a great career and it's a great field. I didn't know if I wanted to put people to sleep for the rest of my life and not have relationships with them. So I was like, is this going to make me happy? Is this going to fulfill me? So I was just trying to navigate my next steps essentially and think outside the box a little bit. Back in the day, I feel like everyone did CRNA or nurse practitioner. So anyway, I found a job at a med spa initially, and then I worked in the ICU as well. So, and in the beginning of aesthetics, everybody knows this. If they're in aesthetics, you have to hustle your ass to, make it and to figure out what you want to do. So I worked in the ICU 3 days, and then I worked at this med spa 3 days a week and just hustled hard in the beginning. And when I first got my job at a med spa, it wasn't even for an injector position. I got a job as a nurse there doing IV therapy and wellness therapy and intermuscular shots, vitamin shots, because I just wanted to get my foot in the door of a practice that actually did aesthetics. And I was like, I'm going to build a rapport with the owners here and have them trust me and want to invest in me to have me be an injector because it's competitive. It's really hard to get into. So you got to be creative with how you get into the field. So I actually worked for a year being an IV starter nurse at this practice without doing aesthetics and just kind of proved myself and was, just proved that I was loyal and that I was committed and wanted to actually grow with them. So that's how I started in aesthetics. So for 3.5 years, I literally bounced from the ICU to the med spa position. And then after 3.5 years, I let go of the med spa let go of the ICU and then moved fully into my med spa role, my nurse injector role. So
Right.
it was kind of a journey, but I had to hustle my butt off in the beginning to make it
The
work.
hustle is real. Hustle is real. What was, Olivia, for you? What was the tipping point where you said, okay, now I can go all in on aesthetics? Or what was that like for you?
It was most medical providers that are in this space know you can't just get up and leave your current job because you have to pay bills, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So It was I, like, figured out I could leave when I had built up my books a little bit. I had some patients that I was seeing, and I was like, I'm never gonna be able to excel at this if I don't let go of one of the responsibilities I had. I had too many plates spinning at once, and I'm like, I really wanna put my heart and soul into aesthetics, so I have to sacrifice, maybe being a little comfortable with my funds at one point and take the plunge into full-time aesthetics. So it was when I knew that I could make a little bit of money and pay my bills. And then I was like, okay, I can take the plunge finally to aesthetics and really commit. So that's honestly when, but it took 3.5 years for me to do that. Like it wasn't overnight. So it took a minute.
Gotcha. We're going to unpack quite a lot on the show today, but even if you think about those 3.5 years, because sometimes like that is the grit, the hustle, you're burning candles at both ends. What was some lessons perhaps that you learned, or if you look back on Olivia back then, what was it kind of got you through there? Because not everybody would make it, especially, today where it seems that every social media feed has, somebody who's moving into aesthetics, but you've obviously been through the journey.
I mean, I think I just knew that it took hard work and that if you wanted something, you have to put the work in. I'm not someone that cuts corners and I feel like I'm just like innately a self-starter. So, everyone that was around me that was mentoring me and that I was, following on Instagram or I don't know, watching on interviews or something, like they hustled in the beginning. So I knew that's what you had to do to get where you wanted to go. And I feel like I also was raised with like parents that were really hard workers. So I think it's just like instilled in me. So I wasn't like, "Woo is me" in the beginning, like, I'm working so much. I was like, "I have a goal. I wanna get to where I wanna be," right? So, I think because I knew I really wanted it, it wasn't as hard as it sounded probably because I saw the end goal in sight. Like, it was more about the long game for me, not the short game, which I think a lot of people need to think about when they're getting into a field. Like, I knew I was gonna have to sacrifice in the beginning, but the long game would pay off for me, you know? So, that's what I think my eye was kind of on the prize.
What's that look like for you? 'Cause the long game, so you had the vision, you had the goal. Would you mind just describing what that looked like back then to you?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I wanted to get out of the ICU and knew I wanted to get out of bedside nursing and I wanted a better quality of life and living. I wanted to make money, like better money too, like doing something I loved. And so I knew I had to put the work in order to be able to do that. So building up my clientele, building up my skill, building up my books, I knew I had to do that. Like I didn't have a choice, right? So in the beginning, it was just literally like keeping my head down, working hard. And I think I was even in nurse practitioner school at the time, actually, as well. Like I was in school trying to once again thinking about the long game and like, being successful later. I was like, what's going to help me get there? So I just the way I do things in life is I think one foot in front of the other and like one day at a time. I don't think about like 5 years or like 1 year in advance. I'm just like get me through the next day and I like slowly chip away at my goals. I think sometimes when people like think of the big picture and they get overwhelmed by trying to think about going through nurse practitioner school or having two jobs. It's like just put one foot in front of the other and just little by little just march away at it. So I think that's kind of what kept me going too is that mindset.
Break it down into chunks, and obviously you're taking action. And what you mentioned there as well, I just wanted to touch on that because you put the work in, had the education, you're making multiple jobs happen as you're taking that one step at a time. And as we discussed, I think that the communication, being authentic, there's something that enabled you to build that book of business and to set yourself apart and to be successful and to be part of a very successful organization now as well and building your brand also. Can you talk a little bit about that honesty, that communication, and some of the things that you mentioned there as well, taking action,
Yes.
one foot in front of the other, because sometimes people do get stuck.
Yeah. I think when it comes to aesthetics, you have to really want it. Like I really do. I think a lot of people get into it for the wrong reasons, to be totally honest. Like I really do. And I feel like they think it's super lucrative, super easy, and they can just like skirt right in and be really successful. And I think that when you really want something and you're passionate about it, you'll make it happen. Like, I have so many people DM me or, we have trainees that come in, they're like, "It's just too hard to get a job. Like, I just can't do it." And I'm like, "It's because you don't want it enough. Like, get creative, like think outside the box. Like, if you want it, you will make it happen. If you don't, then it's not for you. Like, I feel like I think because I wanted it so bad, I was going to put in the work. And then additionally, like when you want something, when you're really passionate about something, I feel like you're authentic about it, right? Like when my patients would come into my chair because I loved what I did, they could feel that. It was palpable, right? So I think when somebody's inauthentic and they're doing it for the wrong reasons, their patients can sense that. People aren't stupid. energy is a real thing, right? Like it's the vibe you give somebody. And if you're sitting there kind of like, half-assing it or just are doing it only for the money or just for the notoriety or, the Instagram followers, like they can feel that. So I think they felt my passion, they felt me caring for them and really wanting to have a beautiful outcome and to build confidence for them. So I think that's why, like that's why I am where I am. I think it's because I genuinely love what I do and I genuinely love to make people feel more beautiful.
Awesome. I love it. And I can feel the passion through the screen here today as well. One thing that we talk about on the show a little bit is, with growing a business, with helping people make those transformations, there's relationships, there's people talk about sales. How have you kind of embraced that, the sales component, the relationship component, helping people be their best selves and having those just transparent conversations along the way? Because I think that's a major area that people that are growing the business, they're injecting, they're an owner, and they're just trying to figure out their groove, their rhythm, their real self.
Yeah. I think as medical professionals, it is hard to be in like a sales position. I do. Like, I think it's kind of like a foreign concept for us
Mhm.
because when you're in the hospital, your pay structure is so different and you're not doing it for like a commission or like a sale, right? And clearly this business is very like revenue driven, right? Like it's very sales. So once again, I think because I love what I do and I am authentic about what I'm selling and what I'm trying to achieve, it's not as hard for me. I do know that a lot of practitioners have blocks with that because I think they feel like things are too salesy. But I'm like, spin it as like, what do you do for your skin? What do you do for your face? You believe in it, right? So your patients that are coming to your chair, if you're not telling them the proper skincare to get on or the treatment plan to get on, they're going to go on TikTok, they're going to go on Instagram and try to find the person that's going to give them that information. So the way I look at it is they're coming to you for your expertise, right? Like when they come to your chair, they want your advice. So if you're not giving them and you're not educating them and giving them the full picture, then you're doing them a disservice at the end of the day. So I think you have to reshape and reframe your mind. Like I think a lot of medical professionals have the wrong mindset around it and they're like, I don't want to be salesy. You're not salesy when you believe in it and when you make them feel more confident, right? Like at our practice, like I sell a lot of skincare and it's because I believe in it. Like a lot of the girls have a block with that. Like like it's really expensive. I'm like, who gives a shit? Like they're going to go on TikTok and buy a 300-step program from someone that doesn't know what they're doing, or they're going to go to you and you're going to sell them something that actually works. Like it's like there shouldn't be a block with that. Like people are consuming so much information and they're purchasing so many things over the internet from people they don't even know. It's like give them the best advice while they're with you in the chair and don't let them leave and get like, you know, scammed by somebody else or scanned by another person. So I think it's reframing your mindset around that. I think a lot of people have blocks with that, right? But I could never sell something I didn't believe in like ever. So I think because I believe in this stuff, it's easy for me to sell it, but I don't feel like it's sales, if that makes sense. I think when you love something and you believe in it, it ends up just coming across really authentic.
Hey, so a quick message, then we'll get right back to the show. This episode is brought to you by ClinicGrower, my growth marketing agency that helps medical spas and aesthetic practices to scale sustainably with multi-channel marketing, with smart automation and real-world conversion strategies. Now, I know that might sound a little bit vague, and that's because growing your business isn't really a one-size-fits-all formula. Every practice is going to be different, and so should your marketing plan too. So at ClinicGrower, we offer a completely free marketing audit, a growth plan that's customized for you and for your business. This is going to include a full analysis of your current presence, your current marketing, your local competition, and also a roadmap, a growth plan designed to help you to attract more high quality patients and to increase your revenue and to grow your business. So if you want to scale with clarity and confidence, just head over to clinicgrower.com/schedule to book your free consultation. That's clinicgrower.com/schedule. Now back to the show. You mentioned something a bit earlier I think was key as well, is just the education piece. When you're telling that story, you're talking about the tremendous results that the product or the treatment has got, and you're just being authentic and you're being enthusiastic and just answering questions and making that person feel at ease. I think that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
And kind of bringing it back to what you were mentioned a few minutes ago, which is, 11 years ago, right? So educating patients, hustling in the beginning. Was there anything that was transformative to help you to get that message across? Like social media obviously has grown as a medium. How did you kind of figure out all that stuff in the beginning? Like, hey, I'm doing a good job here. but I'm going to leverage some of these different tools, and you were learning as you went along the way as well.
So I, in the beginning, was like everyone else, where I didn't want to do social media because I felt like I didn't know enough. Like, I'm a beginner. What do I have to say that people are going to want to hear, right? So when I first started, I think I was in aesthetics for a year before I actually took the plunge on a social media account. But it was actually an injector I worked with that inspired me to make one. She had been doing it much longer than me. She had a great following. She kind of just lit a fire under my ass and was like, Olivia, like, you are only going to grow if you market yourself and put yourself out there. So if you don't do that, you are not going to grow. So you have to have social media. And I was like, well, I don't know anything. Like, I'm just learning. And she's like, it doesn't matter. Everyone's fake on social media anyway. Just like show up, tell your story, share what you do know, and then take it from there. But she's like, you have to market yourself. Like, that's the only way you're going to get clients or patients in your chair. And honestly, that one conversation was enough to make me do it. And so the next day I just like executed on it. And then little by little, posted and started showing up more. And then that's how I ended up growing. But it took that one person to kind of push me to do it and inspire me. But that's definitely helped, like my books weren't busy in the beginning, right? So a lot of practitioners are sitting there twirling in their thumbs. And I'm like, while you don't have patience, work on marketing and branding yourself. So that's what I did.
That's so powerful too, because it took someone to kind of tell you what to do, sort of mentor or guide someone who had been there and done it. And then, but you also executed, you went out and did it. What was it like? Do you recall just those first couple of days, those first few weeks? You're okay, I'm going to do it. You talk us through that.
I mean, it was terrible. It was terrible. Like it was so uncomfortable. You have to talk in front of the camera. That was awful. And I didn't like it, and it wasn't easy for me. You have to like figure out your flow. You have to figure out your brand. You have to figure out your messaging. You have to figure out what you want to put out there. But I have been like immersed in like podcasts and brand development entrepreneur podcasts for a really long time, probably for like the past 15 years. To be honest, I've always been very interested in like self development and branding and entrepreneurship, always. And I had listened to so many podcasts and successful people talk about like branding and showing up on social media. So I think that helped as well. But when you do show up on social media, it is vulnerable. It is very hard, but over time it builds confidence, right? Every single day you show up, it builds confidence more and more. So I had known that just from listening to so many other successful people. So I feel like the more you show up, the more it gets easier. So that's essentially what I did in the beginning. And that's how I grew and got my following and kind of got more patience and put myself out there. And yeah, that's how I started.
So it's not like it just one day you do it and then your book fills. But did you notice as time went by that patients are, hey, I saw you on? Or did you start to hear that and feel it? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, like, it felt like it was paying off, right? Like they'd come to my chair and be like, I feel like I know you already, or they trust me already. Like I feel like when you have a social media account, like the consult starts before the patient's in your chair, in my opinion. Like you're building trust through the online platform, through the screen. People are connecting with you when you're putting yourself out there and sharing your life and your expertise and your values and your philosophies and your ethos and your personal life, right? Like people connect with humans, not robots, and not like a med spa. They connect with the human behind the practice. I feel like the more I kind of showed up and showed my personal life and what I was interested in, I'd have more and more patients that were similar to me come to my chair. And then they would trust me because they've already seen me on the camera talking about, you know, the education I'm doing, the conferences I'm going to, what I value, what I think is important. So I feel like they already knew me through my social media platform. And then it makes my job so much easier when they're in my chair because they already trust me. So I feel like I'm working like smarter, not harder in a way. So I think a lot of practitioners don't, once again, it's like reshaping or reframing your mindset around social media. Like everyone's really negative about it, but I'm like, it's a free marketing tool and it allows connection. Like everybody wants to connect. It's part of our DNA. So
I talk about, yeah, you said to a T too, it's about getting people, they can know you and like you and trust you before they even come in because they've maybe been consuming the content, listening to you, educating them on the skincare products, on the treatments, seeing the outcomes over maybe even months or sometimes years before. Do you find sometimes too that with the ability, modes of communication, the ability for patients to get educated in multiple different ways, does that sometimes overwhelm or does it cause hesitation? They come to you with like already knowing or thinking they know a lot?
yes, all the time. I mean, people are all scared of filler lately and even neuromodulator they're terrified of because they said it goes into your brain. So it's all the fear mongering and that's out there. And I have patients constantly come to me and they, you know, they tell me what they're seeing and hearing, and then it's up to me to educate them on the facts, right? And I think through like me being blunt and honest and being authentic, they automatically trust me. Like I don't bullshit them. You know what I mean? Like if they say something, I'm like, yeah, like Botox is a toxin. It's a toxin. Like it's a poison from nature. We use it in a very controlled setting, but it's definitely a toxin. I'm not going to say it's not. So I think that I frame it with honesty and then educate them on why it's safe, right? So when someone comes in scared of tax, I'm like, it's one of the most studied drugs in the world because we have the most money in this industry, right? So we've been studying it for the past like 50, 60 years. So I go over, yes, it's a toxin, it's a poison, absolutely. But this is why it's safe. So I don't bullshit them and I'm not like, oh no, nothing could ever bad happen. I'm like, things can happen. It's a medical procedure. So I go into all that, but I'm like, it's very safe considering everything else we're injecting and putting into our bodies, right? So I think I always frame things with honesty and I have a real conversation with people. I'm not trying to be like robotic there and like have a script. I'm very like honest and I say, like I'm a non-toxic clean freak in 80% of my life. And then 20% of the time I do what feels good. And that's what Botox does for me and Dysport does for me. So I think when you show up
You're
with
a
that,
human being after all.
what?
You're a human being after all, right?
I'm like, I'm not trying perfectionism breeds sickness and unhappiness. So I'm not trying to do that. Like I'm trying to do what makes me feel good, in moderation. But like at the end of the day, I think when you show up with authenticity and honesty and you don't sugarcoat things and you do talk about the risks and what things really are, they trust you more. Like I don't have an issue getting my patients to do filler or tox or anything, to be honest. Like they trust me because of the way I deliver things. And I think it's through that authentic messaging.
Yep, yep. And I was talking to a guest on a recent podcast, and actually come quite a little bit just about the consultation, because the consultations with new patients are done in a lot of different ways. I've got to learn over the years, and I've definitely seen a pattern that the relationship with the patient and the success of that relationship and the outcome the patient gets a lot of time comes down to, yes, the initial first impressions, the billing trust you mentioned, and a lot of it is done at that new patient consultation. How do you typically handle yours? Would you mind just sharing a high level new?
Yeah. So at the Confidence Bar, ours are a new patient, if they're there for neuromodulator, is about 30 minutes. And then if it's a filler patient, they're there for an hour. So we spend time with our patients. It's not like a revolving door where we're like churning and burning people. We're spending time with people and we're all about relationships at our practice. So we establish that trust, that education, we provide that value in that first appointment. And we really understand the driving force of the patient and the emotional driver of the patient. So all the practitioners at the Confidence Bar are really good at kind of understanding the why of the patient being there, right? Like we're not talking over them, we're not interrupting them, we're listening, we're hearing what their personal goals are, and then we're curating like a personalized treatment plan for them. So they're very long like consults. I think some people might think an hour is too long for, a filler appointment, but it's not about like quantity for us, it's about quality. And I think when you really focus on the patients you do have and you really nurture those relationships, that's what's going to help you grow and what's going to help you be successful at the end of the day. It's not seeing 50 patients a day, it's seeing 12 patients and really really having an impact on that human, like that person that's in your chair. So that's what we focus on at the Confidence Bar. And we don't have an issue with like people being scared to do treatments because they trust us. They feel heard and seen and valued with the Confidence Bar.
I love what you said there. And for anybody who's listening or watching, just that piece that Livy spoke about, which is spending time with that patient, connecting with them, because there are multiple different, shapes and sizes of businesses, but also how consultations are done, right? And there are consultations that are like, sure, come on in. Yeah, you got only 13 minutes now. Let's go. But you're not really able to connect or find out what that patient is really looking for, win the trust and get that rapport. So I think what you said there is so key, and the time spent at those consultations is as it really enables that relationship and enables that two-way conversation, right? The questions, the answers, that little bit of time, a little bit of space that's needed to truly understand somebody. So
I think the two-way conversation is so important. I think a lot of aesthetic practitioners, like, they turn into kind of robots during the consult too. They're like, I have to do full facial balancing because of, that's what somebody said on stage or was a keynote speaker. And it's like, no, like, what does that patient want? Why is that patient there? What is their goal? Like, that's more important than what you think as a provider, in my opinion, which might not be, or not might not agree with me, but that's how I establish my connections is I really listen to what they want. in the consultation, people might say technique's super important, anatomy, like knowing your education. It's not, it's human connection. Like human connection is why they come back to you. And that happens in the first like 7 seconds, research shows. Like that connection piece happens so fast. So you can lose that within 7 to 10 seconds of meeting somebody by just the energy you're giving off or not making eye contact or the body language that you're, not giving them, right? So I literally I'm throwing a conference next week, and one of my presentations and conversations is on the art of the consultation. Like, it's on how to finesse that and perfect that and how to essentially, have a cult-like following from your consult. So, this is something I'm very passionate about, is the consultation for sure.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get to hear more about that, because that truly is, I think, at the center of kickstarting that patient relationship.
Yeah.
You mentioned something really important too, I think, is with the amount of consultations that you've done and understanding patients and their goals. How have you seen patients' goals just with the industry evolving over the last even 5 years, shall we say? Are patients' goals changing quite a bit these days? Are you seeing a trend or a pattern?
Yeah, I mean, I think, before it was like the Kardashian look, the big lips, like the big butt, the chiseled features. And now I think things are toning down a bit and everyone's coming in wanting natural aesthetic, natural outcomes where people can't tell they've done something. We tend to attract patients that were like that anyway, to be honest. Like, we didn't really attract all those, like, Kardashian-esque patients, to be honest, just based on what we stand for and our ethos at the Confidence Bar. But I think everybody is into the, like, less is more regenerative space now, and they don't want that loud, obvious work done. They want that quiet, subtle, refreshed look, which I'm all about. So I think that's where the world is going, is, staying you, but just a more elevated version of you without trying to become someone that you're not. So that's what I think is happening.
Is any just on the treatment side or kind of that evolution, anything that you see coming down in the next 2 or 3 years? Anything that you really see that you're doing maybe more treatments of, or just seeing
Yeah.
a
Regenerative medicine, so, like, Sculptra, Radiesse, like, the Easy Gel, like, all that, like, PDGF, obviously, that's been a whole thing. So it's all the regenerative stimulation to kinda help get you to your outcome is kind of where the world is going, peptides. I think it's all about, like, also more holistic health versus just, you know, cosmetic. I think everyone's kinda looking more internally too at optimizing their bodies, which I think is amazing because your aesthetic outcomes, it matters what's going on in the inside of your body as well. To get the best outcome, if you're chronically stressed or you're really high cortisol levels, your aesthetic outcomes are not going to shine. So you do have to have the inside right before you invest, I think, in your face, to be honest.
yeah. I agree. I mean, we're seeing just so much sort of come together. Really, a lot of sort of things are merging together when it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to regeneration, just wellness. With all the treatments that you can offer patients, what are your personal favorites? What do you love to do? We mentioned skincare, of course.
I mean, I love doing Sculptra. I love, like, getting a full treatment plan in place. So I always tell my patients, like, we're aging on our muscle, fat, skin, bone. We're aging on all these different planes. So that means that we have to support the tissue as we age with different modalities. So I kind of use a cocktail of treatments and all the tools in my toolbox to help optimize their treatments over time. So I like getting them on a long-term treatment plan and kind of strategizing how to get them to their goals, but through the long game, not like a short game. It's not just a one appointment and done. I think that's also what's really important. If you want to retain your patients over time, you have to have a longer consultation. You have to think more about, like, how you're going to approach them long term. So I like kind of talking about everything. I love doing Sculptra. I love doing full facial balancing, obviously. I love doing lips, but I like getting that whole treatment plan in place for the patient so they're really, really excited about the journey, and they feel like hopeful that they have, that they can get to their goals. Well, I can't like say one that I love. I really love it all. I really do.
When you can put together such a comprehensive treatment plan, it provides that obviously variety because you're able to help that patient in so many different ways. And I'm sure it just opens up the door for more questions, because that patient in that first consultation, I'm sure that they'll, you paint a picture and you paint a vision, but that then might change, right? Maybe a year down the line or 6 months down the line. So you're able to like you said, to kind of to bring more services together and to create your cocktails and signatures as well. Do you have certain signature packages that you love to put together?
I mean, I like to do I'm skin forward first, so, like, I always start them on a skincare plan, so I feel like that's one thing that sets me apart from a lot of other practitioners is I'm very, like, skincare focused, so I feel like what patients are doing at home is more important than them seeing me quarterly, like, protecting their skin every single day, getting on a good treatment, like, skincare regimen, and then we'll talk about kind of, like, treatments in office, but I'm really about, like, compounding habits over time is more important than doing 1 laser a year. So I'm very like skincare focused initially. And then we kind of, usually go into like more regenerative things like Sculptra, microneedling, lasers, things like that. But I like to stimulate that collagen and get that good base going before I'm going to kind of like filler. But you need it all. If you want to age gracefully and you want to look natural, you need it all. And that's just the truth. People don't want to hear it, but it's like that's what the celebrities are doing. They're doing everything. They're not doing one thing. It's a bunch of little things strategically done to get them to their goal. So I'm honest with patients about that too. Like I don't sugarcoat things in my chair. I'm very like this is the facts and this is what it's going to take.
Right, it's not just one, yeah, one silver bullet. I love what you said there as well, because when it comes to also just growing the business, it's not just that one thing. It wasn't just that for you. I don't think it was just that one channel, Instagram, or the one sort of focal point with just talking about one thing. It's really combining everything together with the authenticity, the patient consultation, leveraging those channels of social media. It's been able to help you to expand your voice and to draw patients in. To change it up a gear a little bit, just with there's a lot of misconceptions, I think, in the industry. What do you see are some of the biggest misconceptions with aesthetics from the patient perspective?
I mean, I think the biggest misconception is if they get filler, they're going to look fake or like a pillow face. Honestly, I think everyone thinks the minute they get like any type of filler, they're going to look you know, like botched. So I think it's once again educating them in those appointments about, we're not going to overdo it. We're not going to abuse the product and we're going to be very strategic about placement. So I think that's like one of the most misunderstood thing of aesthetics is that the minute you get filler, you're going to look fake. I also think a lot of people don't understand it. They have no idea what it takes to get to goals. Even though we have a lot of information on social media and there's a ton of education out there, I do think there's a lot of misleading education and guidance. So it really does take finding someone that you trust to help get you on the right path with aesthetics because it's scary. There's so many practitioners out there. And if I was a patient, I would be terrified to be out there, to be honest. I really would, because there's a med spa in every corner. So I get it.
Any particular just anything that springs to mind with, you've seen patients, I'm sure, that have been to other places, but patients that are coming in with oh my God, I was told that I could do this or that something outlandish would happen. Is there any sort of common stories that you hear?
I wouldn't say there's anything in particular. It's just mainly I've been hearing like, I'm super scared of filler and that Botox is going to go to my brain is like the two things that I've been hearing. But no, I mean, patients, honestly, whenever they come to us, the one kind of chief complaint I hear a lot is that they felt like they were rushed or people didn't really care about what they wanted. I think in today's world in general, not even just aesthetics, I think in general, people are like losing that human connection piece and that connection piece. I think everyone's very, very lonely in today's world, despite being more connected than ever. So I think when you are in the consultation, you should really be focusing on connecting with that patient more so than even like selling them a treatment. Because through that connection, you'll get the sale later. But if you make them feel heard, seen, and valued, they're going to come back and love you every single time more and more if you give them that attention and that I don't know, attention. So I think that's what people are missing in today's world is that human connection piece and really caring about other people. So that's what I feel like patients come in and say is like, oh my God, you guys are so good to us. You guys really listen. Everyone's so nice here. Everyone's so kind here. I'm like, what are you guys getting at these other places? Like, I don't understand how people are even going to these other places that are not treating people well.
Yeah, you know what? One of the sort of the biggest, most it's misconceptions, but things that we hear in the industry is the challenge can be retention, patients coming back for some practices, and I really believe that new patient consultation, what you mentioned there, slowing down that connection that people are craving in a world of advertisements, Groupons, offers, busy kids, etc., but just slowing it down, understanding what somebody really needs. On the flip side of it, we see that it's the practices of the providers that they're overwhelmed. Patients are coming in, they're trying a little bit of everything, but they're just not slowing things down to have that relationship. And I really, I love what you said about that because at the center of what we're discussing here between the confidence exuding and everything that you do, the communication with patients, the connection with them. I really think that is the most important part because the treatments will change, right? The technology is changing, but at the center of it still is that connection.
And, like, at the end of the day, like, it's a ratios game. You're not gonna be perfect, your entire career. Like, you're going to mess up and you're going to drop an eyebrow. You're gonna use the wrong product. Like, things are gonna happen, right, in your practice. But if your patients trust you and they respect you, they're gonna always come back. That's why it's so important to build that connection piece and that have that rapport with them because you'll eventually mess something up. And if they don't have that trust in you, then they're not gonna come back to your chair. So, that's what I always think about too when I'm trying to, like, gain that trust in that patient. I'm like, I just want them to know that I always have their best interests at heart, like no matter what happens moving forward, like I just want them to know that I'll be there to take care of them throughout this journey, right? And like one thing I think this is really important. Like I heard a speaker a while ago who was talking about the power of the consultation. And this always kind of stays in my brain. And I think this is a really helpful tip for any practitioner. But it's when your patient's talking, most practitioners interrupt them at 11 seconds. That's what research shows. Like doctors and practitioners, they usually interrupt patients at about 11 seconds. So whenever I'm in my consultation, I'm literally actively thinking, don't interrupt them for 45 seconds. Like let them talk. I'm like, let them speak and look them in the eye and don't interrupt. Because people like listening is a lost art. Many people they're already thinking about the next thing they want to say. So I think if I can give one people a tip with the consultation is just listen. Like don't interrupt your patient when they're trying to tell a story or when they're trying to talk about whatever they're talking about. Even if you're not interested, just listen. Because listening goes such a long way. So that's something that I think everybody can take note of and incorporate into their consultation. Because I guarantee you're not letting your patient talk for 45 seconds. I would put money on it.
That's huge. I can just anybody's listening, get that sticky note, get that post-it, 45 seconds, put it somewhere, and you've been able to that's 4 times the industry average.
I know, but like if you think about it, like even when you're in a doctor's appointment or when you're talking to somebody, people are always interrupting, like if you can listen to people, they're going to love you so much. Like it's like that one book, oh my God, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's an old one, whatever, I've never read it. I know the whole ethos is literally like listen. It's just listen more. That's what it's about. And many of us don't do that. So I think if we just put that into the consultation, you're going to win your patients.
That's it. I mean, I think that listen, connection, listen, as we just discussed through the whole thing. If we could do more of that, then that's the key to connecting with more patients. How about, you've been in the industry for, over a decade right now. That's just such great advice that you've given right there, slowing things down, listening to patients. Anything else? Sort of 3 helpful tips, 3 things that have perhaps served you well throughout your career thus far.
I think honesty, like honesty is like the best policy, obviously that everyone always says it, but I genuinely bring that to my consultations. So I'm very honest about what I can and can't achieve. And I always under promise, over deliver, always. Like that's my best tip too, is like never over promise what you can achieve. Like I always am like, listen, hopefully we can get to your goal in 2 sessions, but it might take 3, and I don't know if we can get there, but we can try. So I'm very like honest with them when I first meet them. And patients really appreciate that. Like when you're like, I can't give you Hailey Bieber's jawline, they appreciate that bluntness. Like they really do. I feel like certain practitioners are scared to say that because they're like, I'm going to lose the patient. They're never going to come back to me. And I'm like, no, 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 no. When you are honest, they will come back to you every single time. So that's one of my best tips. Number 2 is listening, obviously, which we just talked about in depth. And then number 3 is get your ass on Instagram. Like get on a social media platform. You have to. So many people do not get on. They don't utilize the free marketing on any platform, like TikTok, Instagram, whatever platform you want to use, just get on one of them and put yourself out there. Because when you do that, you're going to be more successful. You're going to have more patients in your chair and you're going to gain people's trust when you do that. So I don't understand this block with people with social media. I mean, I get it because it's a vulnerable thing and it takes confidence to get in front of a camera, but you're never going to get more confidence if you don't do it. You don't gain confidence by sitting in your basement scrolling, right? Like you gain confidence by doing, by progress, by trying things. So I encourage anyone that's kind of sitting back to just put themselves out there. Like you have no idea what opportunities could come from that. And like even this opportunity, like you probably won't even talk to me if I didn't like have a social media presence or like a point of view. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
highly recommended.
Yes. But it's like, I think it's because Rana sees how hard I work, right? And like I put myself out there, but if I didn't put myself out there, I wouldn't be here right now, right? So it pays off in the long run. You just have to do one day at a time. So I think my third advice would be like, get on social media, get your butt on social media and market yourself. No one
Yeah,
else is going to do it for
hit
you.
that record button. I mean, I see it all the time too, and I'm sure you do in the industry. You can look at there's a practice, a provider, for example, an injector, and the Instagram feed is maybe hollow. It's got some stock images. It's like, or there's you're there, you're educating, you're having fun with patients, you're having fun with the team, you're just being you, pressing that record button, and through most of that comes education and that trust building, like you mentioned as well. Olivia, any sort of certain tips? Anybody who's like, yeah, it sounds good, but what sort of framework could you recommend for someone to just go and do that? What can they talk about tomorrow?
I mean, I always say simplify it. Like, don't make it so complex. Like, so people are like, I have no idea what to post. I'm like, post your skincare, post you making a latte, like, post your supplements you're on. Like, it doesn't have to be this complex, like, totally thought out content. It's like people want to connect with humans. They want to see the behind the scenes of your life. So it's like, just simplify it. I also think about who I follow and what I find valuable and what I like watching. And then I'm like, kind of do that same thing, right? Like, I like women and people that are blunt, that are straightforward, that show me like their daily routines. So it's like just simplify the content. It doesn't have to be this intense whole, pre-recorded, planned out thing. I also think one tip that I do that I think is helpful is I keep a notes list on my phone of just like content ideas that I get throughout the day or whenever I think of a idea, I jot it down. And then whenever I have time to execute it later is when I do it. I'm not somebody that blindly scrolls or forces content. I don't believe in that. I think it breeds resentment and then you have a bad relationship with social media. So I think it's really important to keep just a notes of things when they come to you authentically and, when you're living your daily life. So that's one thing I feel like I tell people to always do so they don't feel like they're, don't have enough content. But the main thing is just, I feel like just starting and just getting in front of the camera and just sharing your daily life. That goes a long way.
Especially when you're trying to connect with someone who's going to be hopefully you will be seeing you and you seeing a lot of them in the future as well.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
I love that.
I I share things that people might think is weird. Like I'm really into like astrology and woo-woo things, right? So like, but that allows me to connect with people that are also like that, right? And I have like my farm and my chickens and my sheep and like that connects me with people that are interested in that. And I don't want people in my chair that are, like obsessed with the superficial things in life and like in Dubai on like a private jet. Like I want people that I can relate to too, So it's like when you share who you are authentically, like it attracts the people that you want in your chair too. So I think that's what's also very important about showing up authentically is that you're going to allow clients and patients to come to you that you want to be around, which is the beauty of it. So,
When you said like it's attracting the right people, it's also in a lot of respects it can be that conversation starter. We were talking in the beginning of the show just about that the cool picture, with your farm and the eggs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure you hear that from patients too, right?
yeah, they love it. I mean, most of my patients come in, they're like, "I loved seeing your son. I loved seeing your husband. I loved seeing that story this weekend." It's never like, "Oh, I loved that temple video you were showing." It's always like the personal content that they love to see. And that's easy for people to post, Like you need to be posting your personal life as well. They're not connecting with a robot. They want to connect with a human. And they want to see that humanness of you. I think when you're showing up like making your coffee or like putting on your skincare in the morning with no makeup, I think that goes a long way as well. Like they feel like you're a real person, with flaws like them and they can connect with you. No one connects with like a perfect robot. They just don't. So showing yourself and, your mistakes and your flaws, I think is a beautiful thing.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Olivia, what excites you most about the future of aesthetics as you're looking?
I think looking at aesthetics holistically, like I talked about earlier, I think I really like that the aesthetic world is going towards like peptides and hormones and the whole inside optimization versus just your external appearance. I'm somebody that fully believes that if you were depressed and anxious and you don't have the inside right, that your injectables won't shine. So I really do love that people are kind of going more inside and internally and trying to figure out how they can optimize their health in general. I think that's where we're gonna see aesthetics is kind of this holistic picture versus just, injecting the face. So I love that because I'm all about that in my daily life. I'm all about biohacking and, being the best version of yourself in every way. So I think that's where aesthetics is going, is down that avenue, which I'm really into.
Awesome. Awesome. How about any sort of final takeaways for providers who they want to grow their business with confidence throughout 2026 and into the future? We covered so much today, but any final takeaways?
I mean, it's 2026, right? It's the year of the horse. We're hearing this everywhere, seeing this everywhere. It's about authenticity. Like that's what it's about. And I think if you were somebody that's scared to show who you are or show a point of view and like what you care about, you're going to miss out on big opportunities. So I think 2026 is about sharing your point of view, showing up authentically, and using your voice. I think that's really important about this year. So, and if you're trying to brand yourself or get on social media more, it's like just show up and be you. And if you don't know what that looks like, journal and kind of self-reflect on what makes you happy, what makes you tick, what's your core values, what's your ethos, and kind of do some introspection. I think a lot of people don't sit back and take note of who they actually are either. So if you don't know how to do that or are unsure of how to, be authentic, then you got to do that work first before you're trying to, gain all these patients in your chair, in my opinion.
Don't put the horse before the cart, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pardon
Like,
the pun. That was terrible.
yeah, well, I got what you mean. I got what you mean. But, it's like no one sits down with themselves and really knows who they are. Nobody. Like, I mean, not nobody, but most people don't get still. So I think I would challenge you to get still and to write down what you want in life and who you are and what you want to bring to the world and what value you want to show. So whenever I'm showing up on social media or whenever I have patients in my chair, I'm always thinking about how I can provide value to that person. Time is very important to people. Time is money. And when I'm on social, I'm always thinking about the value I could provide to somebody. I'm never like just posting a pretty photo of me. I'm like, what can I share with somebody? What's a takeaway that they can consume from my content? So I think that's a really important way to look at stuff as well, is provide the value, give them the value.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for dropping the value bombs throughout the show today.
Yeah.
And this episode has been strewn with it from, I think for me and for listeners, we'll include the show notes, but really there's been a beautiful simplicity at the core, delivering authentic messages, connecting with patients. I love how you broke down that framework towards the end as well, which is in a busy world, please just take that time, even though it's, at the time of the recording, it's February 17th, but it's never too late to have a cup of lattes, sit down, maybe block out 30 minutes and just sit and get those thoughts out on paper, whether it's in the journal, whether it's taking those notes on the phone to record that little educational piece, or just to share some value, to share your perspective on something that somebody might benefit from.
It's like, just simplify it. Don't make it too complex. And one last thing I want to leave the audience with, because I think this is also very important, is there's enough space for us all. A lot of practitioners come into the space and they're like, it's too saturated. There's not enough space for me. And there is. It's like, just show up as yourself and you will thrive when you do that, and you will soar when you show up as yourself. If you're trying to be like Katie down the street, you're not going to make it. So you need to lean into who you are and your own ethos to be successful. But
Beautiful.
there's enough space.
I love that. I love that. There's that mindset of abundance, right? Because there is opportunity, and we spoke about it on previous shows. The way that you put yourself out there will attract a certain type of people. You're not doing flashy Lamborghinis or Kardashian stuff, and there's other people that might be, and they might attract that. But there is a place in the world, in the industry, with authentic messaging for everybody, I believe, as well.
Correct. There is. Yes.
Olivia, for anybody who's been listening here, and they want to connect with you or learn more about what you're doing, about how you're delivering impact, what's the best way for them to learn more, to connect?
I mean, Instagram, I'm very active on Instagram. So Olivia_aesthetics_. So Instagram's kind of my main platform I'm active on. I do have a TikTok, but I never do it. That's one that I'm just not dabbling in at the moment. But so Instagram is my main one. And then obviously I'm at the Confidence Bar in Chicago with the Confidence team. So on the Confidence Bar account, you can find me. On Rana's account, she'll probably have some ugly ass videos she's posting of me, but usually Instagram is where they can find me.
Excellent. And we'll include all those links in the show notes as well. And I just wanted to thank you so much for joining the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to connect with you, and for our audience and for us here to hear your story and hear how you've been approaching life and approaching the industry, I think, in the right way, and just creating that impact. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you, Bref. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks, Olivia.
Hey, it's Bref here with ClinicGrower, and I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're loving the Aesthetics Growth podcast, go ahead and hit that like or hit that subscribe, more importantly, so that we can keep bringing you the best of the industry. I really want this to be impactful and the highest quality, and the best way that you can help us to do that is to hit that like, hit that subscribe. And remember, if you would like to be a guest on the Aesthetics Growth podcast, go to clinicgrower.com/podcast.
This is the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.